Didn't you think it was hard?
I know, and I was like, oh, nice.
I think I didn't lean on it.
Charita, thank you for agreeing to do an interview with us. Why don't you explain to people who you are and what you do and how you got into motorsport?
Oh my, so who I am. She just told you I'm Charita. Here at NASCAR, I'm the content division. I'm responsible for original content here. There's social tracks content here. The programming content that goes across all of our broadcast partners, whether it be Fox or NBC, yada, 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 yada. Like whatever they tell me to do. Tomorrow I could be washing the windows, the next day I could be taking out the trash, but making sure that I do it all with an original content, right?
Yeah. How did you get involved in motorsport and then, you know, segue that into, or is NASCAR your first foray into motorsport?
It is, but I would say that I had NASCAR adjacency. I worked at ESPN for 26 years.
Whoa.
Right, so whether it was Sports Center or any other, like RPM Tonight, which probably dates me, any of our other content pieces, I stood up Marty McGee's podcast, which anybody that knows Marty Smith and Ryan McGee know that they've been NASCAR enthusiasts from like the very beginning of time. And so they helped solidify kind of my understanding of NASCAR. And now in this chapter of my career, I'm learning all over again. Like coming into NASCAR has given me an opportunity to learn a different language, right? At the end of the day, content is content, but what's unique about NASCAR is the community, right? Whether it's inside of NASCAR's walls or at the track. I'm just understanding like it's a different community and it's more welcoming than anybody would have probably imagined. And so I'm just learning what it means, and coming during playoffs is like drinking from a fire hose, but that's the fun part. It's a long season. I joined in the middle of it, so we'll see where we end up, but I'm looking forward to Phoenix.
Amazing. I mean, you've had a storied career at ESPN. You're now here. Would you be able to share with us what you think the biggest difference in all your experience, like what is so different about sports and NASCAR today than what you saw at your career and your time at ESPN?
I think, right, this is more focused, this is more concentrated. I've never worked for a league before. NASCAR is a league, even though they actually create and produce their own content. They're a league first. ESPN is a broadcast entity that has multi-platforms and many sports. So if I were to make a comparison, I'd say if you're at ESPN, there's a good chance that you have to be associated with all sports, even when you're focused on like a college football exclusively or an NBA exclusively, you've got all sports around you. NASCAR is singular. It's one new language for me, and I'm appreciating that because it allows me to kind of dig deep into it.
Kelly Earnhardt said one of the factors to finding success was always learning and growing and speaking to people, being curious. What is one thing that you've found yourself really diving into, one aspect of NASCAR, whether it's the sport itself or the like sort of the logistics, the content side of it? Like, you know, you said you set up a podcast. Like, is there a social front that is growing?
I think that I'll answer the first part of that question. I'm curious by nature, right? Whether it be technology, content, creativity, it doesn't matter. I'm curious by nature. And as a small kid, it kind of gets you into trouble, but as you grow older, you learn to embrace it and you kind of don't care what other people think. And so being curious with my peers, I think is what has allowed me to learn so quickly, right? Like I'm not afraid to be in the room and go, hey, quick question, am I supposed to know that person or am I supposed to know that thing, right? And because NASCAR is such a legacy organization and a lot of the folks inside have been here for a long period of time, you will find that they make assumptions that everybody knows everything and you're sitting around the table. It's not too precious for me to find, like, pause the room, hold on. Somebody explained that to me as if I'm a 5-year-old, because contextually I need to understand it in order to help tell better stories, in order to connect our stories with a broader audience. And so that's really important to me.
So I think one thing that is woven into the fabric of NASCAR is that curiosity piece. Is there any other attributes, and it's actually, sorry, to back up a little, that curiosity piece is something we actually find across the board in motorsport. Is there anything else that you think, soft skill wise, that someone looking to get into motorsport should emphasize, should embody beyond that curiosity piece?
I don't think so, right? Because if you look to change who you are just to enter motorsports, now you've actually become more agreeable as opposed to moving your way inside and making people more agreeable for you,
Yeah.
right? Like if I tried to find that one thing prior to NASCAR that I needed to embrace differently or do differently in order to come here and to fit into this realm, I probably wouldn't be here, right? Because I'm here because I don't fit in, right? I'm here because I have new, fresh ideas. I'm here because I can look at things from a different perspective and draw those parallels. Like I'm able to say, oh, that thing happened on Sunday. Interesting, that reminds me of this other thing that happened in this other sport. And I am that fringe fan that's actually learning and growing inside. And so as we try to expand into broader, newer, more demographic, look, it's you and I having this conversation, right? So that's the picture. But we want to be able to expand into these new audiences and grow our demographics in a different and unique way. And so I've got to, and anybody else that wants to, need to be able to ask these questions that may not feel like they're straight. They're for the analytical fan. They're for the fan that's been here for 20, 30 years. They're for the next and third generation of NASCAR families. It's for them. They know where they fit in. But for someone like me that's just coming in, I've got to be able to draw those analogies from this sport and other sports. Look, listening very closely, I get on calls where I am probably not the smartest person in the room, and I appreciate that, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you got to find a new room, right? And so I think people also appreciate and respect when you're able to ask informed questions that are going to either force them to think about their content differently, even though they're the NASCAR expert, and broaden their perspective as well.
Amazing answer. I think what you're touching on is that there's the linear thinkers and then the network thinkers, like people who think in networks and all over the place that all connect to a thought that leads to another thought that leads to another concept. I'm one of those thinkers as well. And I think when we were on the Twitch stream with Ash, she was asking, some general and some specific questions, and I thought to myself, okay, you don't have a specific understanding of this, so pull something from something else, from another sport, from sport in general.
But that's what storytellers do, right? And if you're a storyteller, that's what you do.
Exactly, and I think that's a specific set of intelligences that I think more and more you're seeing. I mean, this is getting just so crazy, but the fact that we have so much content and so much things to learn from, I think we're able to draw parallels, and I think it's a fun time to be in sport because it's not clashing, but it's intersecting with culture. And how do you see, I have two more questions. How do you see the future of content with NASCAR? Where do you see that going? Is it much more, intersecting with culture? Is it even deepening those stories within NASCAR? Is it a bit of both?
It's all of the above. You said both. I think it's all of the above, right? I think, like I said, NASCAR is a community, and in order for them to expand audiences and networks, they have to branch out into other communities, as well as be welcoming to communities coming in. That part is happening, but people need to know that they have access. And so being able to tell those stories, whether it be in Spanish language first, whether it be in communities that probably didn't feel or see themselves at a NASCAR event, we're doing it. It's the Clash, the Chicago, right? Chicago street race. Those are wildly different from anything that had happened before. That's us racing out of the country, which is happening. So I think people are going to see this really quick, that's what I'm looking for, evolution of NASCAR. It's 75 years old. It won't take 75 more years for NASCAR to be where it needs to be or where it sees itself. It probably will happen over the next 5 to 10. And I think, one, we have to be patient because we want to do it right. Two, we have to be really, really, really intentional with where we actually sprinkle, I'll call this this new and unique content, because there's not a lot of it being done from the inside these walls out. And we'll see the results really quickly.
Incredible answer. I think just a corporation thinking forward, thinking outside the box, thinking outside their community are where the wins happen.
Absolutely.
And the wins is including everyone. Last question.
Did you say wins as in WINS or wins as in drafting? Both, right?
Yes,
both, right?
Yes.
Because we can write our own draft. We're doing some things, and now the things that we're doing, these moments that we're doing, will build momentum. Right?
Absolutely. So, last question. If someone's looking to get into motorsport, I know you already touched upon, don't change yourself. And I think that's a very important dissenting opinion. But is there anything else that they should do to get it, if they're looking to get into motorsport, looking for a career in motorsport?
I think you just have to be a student of, right? You have to be a student of everything around you, because I'll take, for example, when interviewing for this role, if I couldn't specifically answer a question, and they knew, don't ask me questions about motorsport. There are 15,000 people in this building that know motorsports, right? I'm going to contextualize that question and answer it for you in a way that makes sense. And my goal is to make you think about your question, right? Be broader, be deeper, and be creative. Look, and stay hungry. Like, who would have thought that this would be this part of my career, that I would be here? But I am, and so are you. So something's happening that's good, right? Yes.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for being with us.
No, I'm excited that y'all took the time to talk to me.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's so important to highlight all stories, I think from the bottom to the top to the middle, and I think we all have something to contribute and to say.
Absolutely.
Right.
Again, that's why we're here.